It is November 4th, 2020. Another episode of The Take is coming your way. And although sports might not be the first thing on your minds, as we have a neck and neck election race for the presidency between Joe Biden and President Trump, there's a job to be done and there's sports to be talked about. We have a lot of NFL discussion for what happened last week, what's coming up next week, betting the spreads, things like that. Steve Cohen got approved as the Mets owner. That's super exciting, and a lot of free agency to talk about for Major League Baseball. A lot of ownerships, a lot of teams are looking to cut down salary, and these New York Mets are the one team that now has a $14 billion owner. So they look to be in play for a lot of spending this winter. The Take is up next. Before we get into it, please like, subscribe to the channel below, leave us a comment, and follow us on our social media handles at The Take Sportscast on Instagram and at The Take Sports Pod on Twitter. So some offseason baseball news, and before we get into any, players and managers, whatever, I would say baseball doesn't get anything. There's a reason why the sport is dying, and it's terrible to say. They just don't get it. And as much as last night wasn't a huge deal, last night was the announcement of the Gold Glove ceremonies, the Gold Glove awards for defenders and position players. It's like MLB forgot that something like very, like history was being made last night or something like that. But election day snuck up on them, I guess. They were like, oh wow, there's an election. So let's just announce the Gold Glove winners tonight. Not even I, a person who Major League Baseball is like my sports life. I don't even know who won one of the awards. I don't know one position player that won last night. Which is not where my mind was. And again, not that it's a big, it's not an ESPYs, award show. It's not the announcement of MVP or Cy Young. But it's things that you like to see. If a handful of your players that a team you root for is one of the finalists at their position, it's something you want to take a look at. And again, Major League Baseball, incompetent as usual, decided to announce them on Election Day when my entire Twitter feed is obviously full of updates on state races and county races and the Senate and obviously what state's blue, what state's red. But enough of that. I think the two biggest moves that I want to talk about today is one, the hiring of Tony La Russa. The White Sox decided to bring Tony La Russa out of retirement and manage this White Sox team. They moved on from Rick Renteria, kind of a mutual departure. And I thought this kind of the hire was going to be more of a younger guy. This is a team that is ready to win now. We saw this season a bunch of young guys. And Tony La Russa just doesn't make any sense. And I think it had a lot of people scratching their head. I don't see where this decision gives you a win. Like, hiring Tony La Russa for me was like a lose-lose. Like what do you get out of it? A lot of people are wondering how is he going to connect to these new players. He's had a history of derogatory terms towards African-American baseball players, which obviously the White Sox have on their baseball team. A guy like Tim Anderson, one of their face-of-the-franchise guys at shortstop, is an African-American baseball player. Things like that. I just don't get how they pick one and two, puzzle, they'll match. Not there. But it's kind of a head-scratcher. You think, okay, a younger guy, what's going on? I don't even think Tony La Russa was really on the radar. But if there's any indication, this was all Jerry Reinsdorf. This is the owner of the White Sox saying, all right, let's bring in Tony La Russa. This is no one else's decision. It was his. And I'm sure a lot of people that follow the White Sox, know Jerry as the owner of the Bulls and the White Sox. It makes sense. This guy is just like an old white guy that kind of just like obviously owns a team, going to pick his guy. And still, I don't even know how long La Russa is going to last. He's a fossil. He's like 80 years old. It might take him 10 years to get to the mound to make a pitching change. The last time he was out there was when they won the World Series in 11 with the Cardinals. So it's like we're going on 10 years here since being in the dugout. So if you're a White Sox fan, just if you're a baseball fan, I'm wondering, what do you guys think? What does this hire mean? I just it's a head scratcher to me. And a few other head scratching moves that I knew they were going to happen, but still for me don't make sense. The Indians, as we know, have been trying to cut payroll. There's thoughts of Francisco Lindor being on the trade block, possibly getting traded this offseason because he will be a free agent after 2021, and it looks like the Indians are not going to re-sign him, don't have a plan to re-sign him. They waived Brad Hand, their all-star closer. He led the league in saves again this season. It was a $10 million option. They declined it. I guess they're ready for James Karinchak to take over the closer's role at obviously he was a rookie this past season, just a young, really strong arm. Brad Hand is a top 3 reliever in baseball still. There's no question about it. He gets the job done. He's got a filthy slider. He's a closer, and a lot of teams are going to want him. So now you're saying, all right, it got $10 million got declined. Go for maybe go a 1-year deal if Hand can get anything. I bet you Hand can get a $2 or $3 million deal on a lower, possibly a lower annual average or the same. You go 3 for $30 with Hand. He's obviously getting up in age, and I'm going to bring back to a lot of these moves with the Mets just because they have this money, they have these needs. Brad Hand to the New York Mets makes so much sense. You get a bona fide closer in there. It backs up that bullpen. Obviously, they have Justin Wilson's a free agent now. Who knows if you're bringing him back? So you're switching lefties. Wilson was the reliable lefty for 2 years. Hand comes in as a very reliable lefty, and you could give him that 9th inning and then give Diaz and Betances, Familia kind of like down the pecking order of like 8 and 7, and you just kind of flip-flop them in the 8 and 7 role, especially because you don't know where you're going to put Seth Lugo. Is he going to be in the rotation next year? Is he going to be in the back end of that bullpen? Brad Hand's a legitimate closer. The second one that I was really dumbfounded by was the Rays declining their option for Charlie Morton. This is a guy that is a really good big game pitcher. The 2 years he was with Tampa, he was, the ace last year. This year he kind of came back to earth, but he pitched great in the playoffs. One series clinching games for them this year. I think it was a $6 million option. So obviously, all these teams, even a team like Tampa Bay that made the World Series, trying to cut payroll. Obviously, Tampa is, in the sense of an exception, they always have one of the lowest payrolls in baseball. Morton's going to be 37, 38. It's going to be up to him whether he wants another contract, but if he wants to play. So I think Morton's another guy. Yankees, Mets, if you want him as a starter, this is a reliable guy that's going to give you innings, give you quality starts, start in and start out. He's a name to look out for both New York teams. Now, Yanks gave the qualifying offer to DJ LeMahieu. Mets gave the qualifying offer to Marcus Stroman. I expect both these to be declined. Stroman wants to check out free agency, and LeMahieu wants to lock down another multi-year contract, especially after what he did with the 2-year contract that the Yankees gave him. He put up MVP numbers. He's going to want probably a 3 or 4 year deal. Stroman probably looking for around a 5-year deal to lock him down, as he's just thinking that, hey, my prime's coming up. I'm in my prime. The best. You haven't even seen the best of me. So there's a handful of things to see with baseball and how this free agency is going to unfold. It's going to be very slow, and that's why I wanted to get out some MLB news today for you in November, because we might not have much MLB news for the next few weeks, just because it's going to be a very slow winter. Things are going to progress very slow. Teams are going to pick and choose their spots of where to strike to bring in these free agents. I might sound like a broken record, but I'm expecting a lot from the Mets. So Steve Cohen's officially going to be the owner. Justin needs to sign the paper until he can get a hold of free agency. His analytics department's going to be revamped, and then probably go into worrying about the players. Again, I'm thinking big. I'm thinking George Springer. I'm thinking possibly Bauer. I'm thinking about bringing Stroman back. Do you look at Real Muto? I think Springer's the number one guy. Do you trade for a guy like Lindor that I mentioned earlier, who's a guy on the block? So a lot of things to unfold towards the end of the year for baseball. We're going to take a look at the NFL up next. What happened in Week 8? What's to happen here in Week 9? Takes coming back next. Week 8 in the NFL has concluded after Monday night's game against the Giants and Bucks. Just a few games that I wanted to highlight out from Week 8, and that is Chiefs and Jets. I told you 19.5 is not too big. Bet the Chiefs. Chiefs covered. A great game from Mahomes, 5 touchdowns. I said a Le'Veon Bell type of revenge game. He had a pretty solid game. Staying in the AFC East, Bills, Pats, Cam Newton fumbles at the Bills' 10-yard line. Bills win 24-21. The Patriots look like they stink right now. But, I mean, just Cam, since he's come back from COVID, he just has not looked like he did in the first 3 weeks. They blow the game in the last, in under a minute time. Bills sneak out of there with a 24-21 win. Another divisional rival, Vikings-Packers. Vikings 28-22. Dalvin Cook scores 4 tutties. He had a crazy, crazy good game. Packers try to come back. That last drive was very interesting, and not that, you say what you want, whatever. Not that I had the Packers team total. That lost, but that last drive looked very choppy. Packers couldn't get anything together. Rodgers was, calling out people. It took them they lost 15 seconds from them not being in a correct formation before a snap. I'm not sure if it was a receiver or running back, but Rodgers was screaming at him. Goes up for the Hail Mary. He comes, defensive end comes down to his arm. It ends up being a fumble, and the game was over. A few surprise. I mean, Dolphins. Tua looked really good. Dolphins upset the Rams at home. Tua's first start, first drive was a sack fumble that the Rams recovered, and then after that, the Rams didn't look like absolute garbage. And Tua came out with his first career win. I mean, you knew it towards the end of last year in the trend with Brian Flores and how he had this team working. This team is playing good football. They're playing competitive football. There's nothing to it. People want to play for them. They're 4-3. They're above 500. It's a pretty decent team. We'll see what happens down the line and towards the end of the schedule. The highlight, the Jim Nantz and the Romo game, that primetime CBS game, Steelers-Ravens. Steelers come up with the win, 20-24. Pitt is now undefeated. They're 7-0, best team in the conference. They're the team to beat in the North now. I mean, we all thought the Ravens were, arguably the best team in this conference. Steelers are showing, not only, we knew on the defensive end they were going to show up, and now they traded for Avery Williamson. The Jets traded Avery Williamson after that game, after Sunday's game, to the Steelers. Now they're going to look even better in the box at linebacker position. Obviously, we knew with Watt and Bud Dupree, we knew that this pass rush was going to be good. They were really good last year. It's the reason, like I keep saying, the Steelers were a good competitive team, even without Big Ben last year. Big Ben looks like Big Ben. He looks really good. And just there's nothing else you could say about it. This team is legit. They are the team to beat. And now I probably have the Chiefs a little higher than the Steelers, even at 7-1. But this Pittsburgh team is going to be fighting for that number 1 spot and that bye going to the playoffs until I feel like until the end of the season. Their legitness. Steelers are legit. They're a top 2, top 3 team in this conference, possibly in the league itself. I really only see possibly Kansas City above them, Seattle above them, and maybe Tampa Bay. So, they're a top 5 team in the league. Whole NFL. And now, because of just recency, being able to watch this entire game, Bucks-Giants. Bucks sneak away with a 25-23 win at the Meadowlands. D. Jones, Danny Dimes, comes back short. He throws an absolute beautiful ball to Golden Tate to get a touchdown. Refs pull a DPI flag against the Bucks for that 2-point conversion. They end up pulling it back up. Now, the big argument was, Jones, he had Deion Lewis in the flat. That was the play. That was the specific play to Lewis. He threw it late. If you throw it a little bit earlier, he hasn't been beat. Jones throws the ball late, a reason why it was bang, bang. He comes across, ball hits him in the arm. And it was it's one of those too close. I just don't get that you threw the flag that how do you pick it up? If there was no call in the beginning and no call, it's like, all right, no call. That's tough. But the fact that they decide to pick up the flag when they initially called that DPI, so the Giants could have another chance. Just again another head scratcher. Kind of sucks for the Giants. They get kind of screwed. But to be honest, overall, the Giants should have won this game. Daniel Jones made 2 boneheaded, stupid picks, as he usually does. Doesn't know how to throw the ball away, and it's a reason why the Bucs were able to, score late. The Giants defense played outstanding. Blake Martinez was everywhere. Their corners played some great football in coverage. Now, Bradbury had a few DPI calls down towards the end that, what are you going to do? They had a use of the helmet against Cameron Brate towards the end of, in the last drive that the Bucs were going for the lead. What is a defender supposed to do with that? If anything, Brate was leading with his helmet into him. If you're going to defend him in the play, what are you going to do? Just move aside, move over? So, I don't know. These rules, what... It really hurts the defenders. I know we're trying to, with safety, player safety, but it's at some point, it's, what the hell you want me to do? I'm trying to play the ball. I'm trying to play the play. I'm trying to play the play competitively. I'm defending my end zone here. What are you going to do? And now I feel like with the Giants, it's kind of been broken record. They're playing competitive football. You're watching to the end, and they're coming up short. At some point, you want to get these wins. This game against the Bucs at home would have been a huge win. We saw the Eagles pick apart the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. Ben DiNucci for the Cowboys looked absolutely, what do you expect? Just the Cowboys in general didn't look good. They didn't score a touchdown. 3 field goals from Greg Zuerlein. That was kind of the story, kind of what you might have expected going into the game. The fact that they have 1 win and they still have a chance, the Giants. Now, they play Washington next week, so that's a big win. That's a big division matchup. As bad as they are, they're a very interesting division because, a few weeks, 2 weeks could totally turn the tide on what happens. I said that last week. I said that this Sunday Night Football game was going to be a possibility, the possible, stepping stone of who's going to win the division. And now the Eagles possibly look like that team that's going to have a definitive lead in this division right now. So for next week, coming up is the NFL Minute Against the Spread. I'll be giving every pick for you, my pick against the spread, every game from Thursday to Monday. That's going to be our quick minute. You don't want to miss that. That's up next. The NFL Minute Against the Spread starts now. I like the Packers minus 5.5 against the Niners. Niners are without anyone. I like the Seahawks minus 3.5 against the Bills. Bills just got by New England. I think Seattle's way better. Falcons minus 3. Falcons get their first win at home. I think that's how it goes. Bears plus 5.5 at Tennessee. Bears like to cover. They covered last week against a good Saints team. Ravens minus 2.5. This line's way too small. Ravens are way better than Indianapolis. Chiefs minus 11 at home against the Panthers. KC, I'm taking them. Vikings minus 4 against the Lions. Viking gets their first W at home. Giants plus 3 against Washington. Giants play good football. They just need to eliminate the turnovers. Texans minus 7. Texans are going to crush the Jags with no Minshew. Raiders, Chargers minus 1.5. Close game, but I like Herbert to close this one out after a terrible loss last week. Steelers minus 13.5 versus the Cowboys. Cowboys don't have anyone. Who's going to be their quarterback? Cardinals minus 4.5 against the Dolphins. Cardinals check down the Dolphins. They're a better team. Saints plus 5.5 at Tampa Bay. Great divisional game. I like the Saints to cover, though. Patriots minus 7 versus the Jets. Bill Belichick is going to embarrass the New York Jets. All right, we're at 1:01. Not bad. But that's my picks. We might have to slow-mo it. I don't know. But it was really quick. I was talking fast. But those are my picks. The full slate of Week 9. This will be uploaded to Instagram, Twitter as a segment in itself. This is going to be a new weekly thing. I'm going to be spitting out just these are like my first glance picks. I just saw the number, saw home and away, things like that. Didn't look much into it. Now, these aren't part of my best bets. My best bets are completely separate, and I'm going to be looking at the Green Bay 49er game. And obviously, here's the thing, and I just saw it on my phone. We might not get that game, tomorrow, the Niners just shut down their facility because of a COVID outbreak. Kendrick Bourne tested positive, one of their receivers, for COVID. So that game might be off the table, and we might be without Thursday Night Football. So we'll look into some different lines. We'll look into Sunday's games, maybe even so far out as Monday games for some best bets. 1-1 last week. That Falcons first half total over covered. The teaser did not. Panthers played a really good first half. The over looked good for that as well. Second half, they just kind of imploded. They couldn't cover. The over didn't even cover, so we were 0 for 2 on the two pick of the teaser, although it did look good at the half. So 1-1. We're still up over 4 units up on Nick's best bets at a record of 11-7. That's been your NFL Minute Against the Spread. We'll be right back. November 4th, Nick's best bets. This is for the weekend. I got 3 team totals that I like a lot. Not a lot on my local book right now or DraftKings in terms of player props. You guys know I really like to bet the player prop. So if I do, I'll be posting those on Twitter or even the Instagram story over the weekend before kickoff at 1 on Sunday. So my first one, this is Monday Night Football. New England team total over 24.5. That plays at -110. Like I just said in the against the spread minute, I think New England, as bad as they've been playing recently, Bill Belichick is going to come in here on prime time, and he's not going to F around. He's not screwing around this week. He will not have this 0-8 New York Jet team even come close to any upset or embarrassing. Patriots going to put up like 31 points. 35 points. Something that they're going to have like 5 touchdowns. And as bad as Cam's been playing, Cam's going to run all over this defense. He's going to throw for 2. He might rush for 2 as well. 24.5. I like that for the Pats. Second one, Baltimore team total over 23.5. And this is playing at -130. Colts defense is not that good. You saw last week, Colts put up a bunch of points. Put up 41 points. And Lions made it close, although they were getting crushed for a little bit. But the Lions made it close. They scored 31 of themselves. Baltimore's offense is still very good. Against a way better Steelers defense. Lamar had that pick 6 early on, was able to run a little bit, but Lamar might run all over this defense as well. I think 23.5 is really good. 3 touchdowns, a field goal, or score 4 touchdowns. I think this is a really good number for Baltimore at -130. And then the third one, first half, all right? Seattle Seahawks first half team total over 13.5. That plays out at -125. Now, playing the Bills, but I think this Bills-Seahawks game, and I know the Seahawks defense has not been great, and the Bills, with an eye test, you say, all right, Bills defense is good, but they have not played really, really good defensive football the past 3 weeks, around the last month. This is going to be a way high-scoring game than a lot of people think. I think this might be a 28-24, 28-27 type of game. This one might hit this might score, over 50 points. Might hit that over total. That's why I like Seattle over 13.5 in the first half. I think if Chris Carson comes back, they'll be able to, run the football a little bit better. You saw Russell Wilson. You saw him. You see him in terms of receivers. 2 weeks ago, it's Lockett getting over 150 yards. Last week, you had Metcalf go for 10 and 160 and 2 touchdowns. He can go on either side of the field and still distribute the ball at a very nice rate. So, Patriots team total over 24.5. Baltimore Ravens team total over 23.5. And the Seattle Seahawks first half total of over 13.5. 3 Nick's best bets. Those will be posted on our social accounts after this episode has aired. That's going to do it for the November 4th edition of the Take Sports podcast. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next week. Hope you guys went out and voted yesterday. We'll see over the next few hours, today, tomorrow, who will be our next president. Whoever you voted for, happy you took your duty to vote and let your voice be heard. So that'll do it for the take. I will see you guys next week.